Welcome to Yukon State of Mind, the show that aims to foster the conversation about mental health in the Yukon, while eliminating the stigma for those affected by mental illness. My name is Kim Solonik, and on today's episode, an exciting announcement about a new mental wellness program in the Yukon, a profile of the Yukon Distress Line with Jordan Aslett. The line is providing a valuable outlet for Yukoners in distress or who just need to talk, and some helpful hints to managing your mental health during the holiday season. But first, let's meet Andrew Jensen, a Canadian professional golfer and spokesperson with Bell Let's Talk. Andrew recently visited the Yukon and shared his personal story with depression.
Going back to my teen years, ultimately, I'd been struggling with my mental illness since I was, 13, 14 years old. But at the time, it was just, as I'm sure many people in this room can attest, it's typical teenage issues. Teen angst. I was overweight. I didn't get good grades. I played a sport that I was judged on. So it's just, these are the things that kids deal with, and it's emotions, and these things go away. It's a phase you grow out of, and that's kind of where I was at as a teen. So I never really paid much mind to the idea of depression. It was just, you're a fat kid. Like, ultimately, that's what I came to me as, is you're a fat kid who can't get a girlfriend. It'll go away, I attempted to take my life when I was 16, and I failed. But it was one of those things that was the year 2000, and mental illness wasn't discussed openly. And even my mother was a nurse, and we didn't think anything of it as a family to do the necessary things, to go through those steps, because it wasn't something, 15 years ago that we're as educated as we are now, or as aware as we are these days. So ultimately, it's a phase. You'll grow out of it, Andrew. And for all intents and purposes, I did. I lost about 50 pounds until I was between 16 and 18. I started to play really good golf. I won some good golf tournaments, some bigger tournaments. Girls were noticing me, and it was just like, oh, the phase had passed, and you're coming into your own. But that wasn't the case. Internally, that wasn't the case. Internally, I still hated who I saw in the mirror every day. But I didn't do anything about it. I'm good. So basically, I hit it from when I was, 18 till about 23. I turned pro at 23, and I threw myself into a very high stress environment. Professional golf isn't as glamorous, especially in the lower ranks. These giant checks, we don't get those big checks. It's not as glamorous as people think it is. The PGA Tour, you have it pretty well. It's pretty great. But when you turn pro and you're traveling by yourself, you're sleeping in $40 hotel rooms, you're piling guys in a car, it's a very, very lonely, isolated life. And the way that depression manifests is it already isolates you. So I basically further isolated myself from the world, but I was getting by hiding it because I was on the road. I was traveling North America in a car playing golf. So then, that rolls us into 2011. And 2011 was ultimately the worst year of my life. 2011 was when Easter weekend, I was having a shower in my girlfriend at the time's house, and I thought about killing myself. And it was the first time I thought about it in 11 years. And I broke down. Basically, I had just given up. I was in so much pain that I had to tell someone. So I told her, and she was great. She encouraged me. She told me to talk to my doctor. My doctor, for the first 3 years of my professional career, said to me, "You have depression." No, I don't. I don't. F you, I don't. I told my doctor to F off. I don't have that. I'm tougher than that. So then, basically, faking it for so long, I told her. 2011, I told her, I thought about killing myself in the shower. She was level-headed enough to be like, whoa, I'm gonna be here for you, but you need to get help. So I did. Because someone I trusted and someone I loved told me to get help, I did. So I went to my doctor. I retired from professional golf, and it was there was a jump in my step. Things are gonna get better, tears in my eyes. I'm gonna be okay. Walking the minute my doctor gave me medication. I'm gonna be okay. Embrace my father in the house. I'm gonna be okay. I wasn't. That was basically the beginning of the nightmare in August 2011, because I mean, long story short, like the trial and error of medication is difficult, and I was over-medicated. So basically my depression and my suicidal ideation became exponentially worse, and I became a shell of who I was. I became a zombie, but I was restless, I was irrational. And then in September, I tried to overdose, because these pills are supposed to make me better, but I still looked in the mirror and hated who I saw. So let's take enough of these pills so that I'm really better in not being here. I luckily failed at that, so here we are. Now we're in October 2011, and that was when I said my goodbyes. I said my goodbye to my girlfriend, my parents, my closest friends, and went to the top of a building. And then my girlfriend, who is no longer my girlfriend, she was just detached enough from it that she could be rational, and she could pick up the phone and call my parents and say, we need to do something. So she basically lured me off the building into her apartment, and then they brought me to the hospital. And checking into the hospital was essentially day one, so October 16th, 2011. That was day one of my recovery. And here we are nearly 4 years later, so day 1500. You know what I mean? Like, that was when things were starting to get better, because I got as low as you could get. And my recovery process has been a very holistic thing. It's been medication, it's been therapy, it's been a community, it's been dialogue, I'm into meditation, mindfulness. Like, it continues to evolve 4 years removed. So this recovery process is very, very much ongoing, and I think that is one of the things that I really want to convey when I do speak about my story. It's not a pill made me better, it's not going to therapy made me better, I'm aware that I'm always going to have this kind of diagnosis, so I'm going to continue to do these things that allow me to get healthy. For all intents and purposes, I'm like a junior hockey player. Like, in the scope of golf, like, I'm not that big of a golfer. Like, I don't have a huge platform, but this platform is just large enough, and this dialogue is snowballing just enough that people want to listen to this, struggling mini tour player talk about depression. And it's just been an incredibly overwhelming experience, but I like it more than golf. That's the cool thing. I love golf. Like, I flew over here to see a golf course. Like, golf's my passion. Golf I love. But doing this, meeting these people, plugging into communities, oh my gosh, all because I spoke to one person. And that's like the power of it. It's not because I'm a professional golfer. It's not because I'm a Bell Let's Talk ambassador. I wouldn't be alive if I didn't speak to one person. And like, that's the craziness of it. And I mean, it is Mental Illness Awareness Week. So like, what does that mean? What does the awareness mean? Ultimately, I made one person aware of my struggles, my illnesses, and that changed the trajectory of my life. It didn't just make it go like this. It didn't make it all rainbows and cupcakes right from the jump, like, oh, you're gonna get better the minute you speak. No, I went through hell. It got much worse before it got better, but the desire to get better is what kind of fueled it. So it's just one of these things, and the person that I shared, she made me aware that she's there for me. So I mean, not everyone in this room is going to have an illness, basically. The statistics don't lie that we're all affected personally, but we may be touched by or around someone. So that whole idea of awareness is kind of like, it's twofold. It's not just the person that's struggling to make people aware that you're struggling. That takes a lot of courage, but I believe it takes just as much courage for you to be to your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, and say, I just want you to know that I'm here. I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm here.
Andrew Jensen was in Whitehorse to help make a special announcement. He joined the Mental Health Association of Yukon, Government of Yukon, Northwest Tel, and Bell to announce the launch of the Living Life to the Full program. We spoke with Juliet Engelhart-Zeta, who's the program director for Living Life to the Full.
Living Life to the Full is a program to help people whether people are struggling, whether people want to help someone who struggles. We say depression, but it's just feeling trapped, not feeling like doing things. Sometimes it can also manifest with addictions, but it's helping people change patterns in their life. The objective with the classes is that people realize, become aware of how they're thinking, how it affects them, their emotions, their physical sensations, how they can make themselves sick, low energy with their thinking, and how it can stop them from doing things that they like, from reaching out to people they care about, just because of those thoughts. And so it's how to break that pattern, that vicious cycle that we all get into. People at the end of the course will have tools, will be able to recognize, okay, here I go again, and what can I do to stop this, and eventually not even get into that cycle.
Does someone have to be referred to participate in this program, or is it something that's open to the general public?
No, it's open to all because we all struggle at some point or another, so we all need life skills.
So the program is a series of modules that are broken down into 1.5-hour long sessions. Is there any particular part of the program that is speaking to you?
I think it all speaks to me because it's building the relationship in between people in a group setting. So people find support, people hear other people's experiences, it makes them think, it normalizes how we all feel at some point or another. Every session is valuable because it's building blocks. So you learn something in one session and then it's like it keeps unfolding.
I've been using the tools that you've been teaching and I found they make a difference in the day-to-day, in my day-to-day life of being able to break down a task that seems overwhelming into manageable pieces and accomplishment things. As we move into the dark winter months of the north here, what's your personal approach to managing your mental health?
Well, for me it's getting out. I really like to breathe outside, so still feeding my soul in the winter, so still going out even though it might be cold.
So how can people learn more about the program?
Yes, I welcome people. We have an office in Horwood Mall on the 2nd floor. It's door 25, so people are welcome to come and get some information. People can call us, so that's 867-668-6429, or you can email us, and that's mentalhealthassociationyukon2015@gmail.com.
Thank you, Juliette. We look forward to seeing more about the program. The Yukon Supported Distress Line began operations just over a year ago. We visited many rivers to get an update on how the services are going.
The Yukon Distress and Support Line was started in November of 2014. It's a telephone support service. It's staffed by volunteers and it's open from 7 p.m. till 12 a.m. It's intended for anyone in the Yukon community to call and get support over emotional issues, mental health issues, grief, loss, trauma, even suicide and crisis. It's intended for community members to be able to call and talk to a volunteer who's trained about whatever it is that's going on in their life. Before the Yukon Distress and Support Line, really what was out there were very specialized services, which do a great job at what they do, but they're very specialized for certain populations. And what we're trying to offer is another way of discussing grief, trauma, crisis that doesn't have to go through those channels. And I think the impact has been that there's now a new outlet out there for people to be able to connect with. Many Rivers puts on a 2-day training on topics like active listening, crisis intervention, and difficult calls. We do that for the volunteers, and then a couple months later we'll have an assist training, which is our assist trainers Aaron Legault and Meg Grodowski. They give an applied suicide intervention skills training to the volunteers so that volunteers are prepared when those really difficult calls do come in.
My relationship with the Distress Line is helping to train the volunteers, specifically in the area of suicide intervention. You don't need to have any prior experience. It's provided to all sorts of different people. In terms of just the talking process in regards to counseling, I sometimes find that with my clients, it's often just them being able to talk about the situation, and not to sell my skills short, but oftentimes it's just me sitting and listening and providing that caring kind of warm environment for people that's sometimes all people need. And so it can be a very simple process in that sense, but we're also here for the bigger pieces as well. That also links with the distress line where, yeah, you're calling some volunteers, but just the simple act of reaching out to somebody who cares and somebody who's interested in helping can be all you need.
You can apply to volunteer simply by emailing me at ydsl@manyrivers.yk.ca or calling me at 1-867-667-2970, extension 249. What I'd really like callers to know is that they don't need to be in crisis to call. If they need to talk, we're here to listen. The number is 1-844-533-3030, and it's a toll-free number. We want to let professionals know that we're out there as well. It's important for us to let callers know, or people in need know that we're there, but we also want to let professionals know. Doctors, social workers, nurses, RCMP officers, anyone who comes into contact with somebody they think might need to talk to an anonymous, confidential person. We really want those professionals that are out in the community to know that we're here and we're open from 7 to midnight, and that's somewhere that they can refer someone to talk.
Before we end our show today, let's meet Jonathan Van Vegan. He has some excellent tips to keep in mind as we embark on the holiday season.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Van Vegan, and I'm a marriage and family therapist intern here at Many Rivers Counseling and Support Services. I'm here to talk a little bit about stress around the holidays and what you can do to best manage that stress and keep it under control. Pressures around the holidays can come from a number of different areas. They can come from financial stressors due to gifts that we have to buy, a child returning home from university. It can come from increased visits by family members from out of territory. They can come from visitation or custody issues that we have surrounding blended families and wanting to visit our kids, and how do we best arrange that with our partners, our ex-partners, our spouses. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how we can best mitigate that stress to make the holiday season flow just that little bit easier. More often than not, the message that stress is sending is that we're either stretched too thin, we're working too hard, or we're just missing one of the small little rewards in our daily life that we normally get. But in that moment, particularly during the holiday season, we're not getting those small little rewards. Tip number 1, the very first thing you can do to combat stress is to pay attention to when stress isn't there. Be that archaeologist in your life. That archaeologist is going to uncover the moments when it's a simple hug from your wife, it's a glance from your child, it's reading a story with your daughter as she goes to bed. It's those little moments in life that the stress isn't there. Now, too often we don't pay attention to those moments, and again, we just look at the moments that we are stressed. But it's in those moments, those little nuggets of time, that let us know that what we're doing in that moment is helping us, it is grounding us, and it is a reminder of the important things that make us feel good about our day-to-day lives. The second benefit is that those moments, they also highlight and underscore the feelings that are associated with those fun things that we do, such as going to the gym. What does that do for you? Well, most often it makes you feel good, makes you feel energized, it makes you feel motivated. And it's those feelings that we get in those absences of stress, doing those little things that we do, that are really important, because when we get well acquainted with those feelings, it's those feelings that we want to find again and we want to replicate. So the two-prong approach to eliminating stress are actually quite simple. The very first thing is to just notice when stress isn't there and what activity that you're doing that lets you know that stress isn't there. And the second clue is pay attention to the feeling that you get in that moment that stress isn't there. Because more often than not, it's that feeling that is the thing that's going to keep us coming back to that activity, which grounds us and makes us feel important. So instead of just focusing on the problem of stress, let's pay a little bit of attention to the solution.
Thanks for watching this episode of Yukon State of Mind. If you have any comments or suggestions on what you'd like to see on the show, please contact us. For more information about the Mental Health Association of Yukon, you can find them on Facebook. Until next time, for Yukon State of Mind, I'm Kim Solinek.